Have you noticed how the world around you keeps getting louder? Every day arrives as a stream of other people's thoughts, their advice, their expectations, their commentary. Your phone vibrates. The news shouts. Social media competes for your attention. And somewhere deep inside, there is silence. It is waiting. It has always been waiting for you, but you cannot hear it. Because instead of turning back toward yourself, you keep looking outward. You compare your life to other people's highlight reels. You explain your decisions to people who will forget them within the hour. You justify your choices to those who are never genuinely interested in your well-being. And day by day, you drift further from the most important person in your life, your actual self. Imagine your life as a ship. Who is holding the steering wheel right now? If you answer that question honestly, you will understand why you sometimes feel like you are sailing in the wrong direction. When you let every voice influence your course, when you react to every wave of emotion, when you search for approval in other people's eyes, you surrender the helm of your own vessel. The Stoics understood this 2,000 years ago. Marcus Aurelius, governing an entire empire, knew the true battle is not on the battlefield, it is inside the mind. Epictetus taught, "We do not control the external world, but we have absolute authority over our own responses." Seneca wrote about how most people live someone else's life and die never having found their own path. This year can become a turning point, not because the world will change, but because your principles can. Today you will discover 10 Stoic habits that separate those who build their own lives from those who simply watch their lives pass by. The 10th lesson will be particularly powerful. It will show you what it means to become unrecognizable to yourself in the best possible sense. Before we begin, write in the comments, right now, without hesitation. This year I reclaim authority over my life. I focus on myself. I stay calm. Write it with conviction, as a firm commitment to yourself. Because when you write an intention with genuine focus, you begin to reprogram your mind from within. Now let's begin. The Lake Parable: Why Silence is Strength. There was once a man, let's call him Alex. He lived in a busy city, had a family, friends, and an overwhelming number of responsibilities. Every morning he woke up with a sense of weight, not because his life was objectively hard, but because it was relentlessly loud. His phone rang without pause. Colleagues needed help. Friends brought their problems. His parents needed attention. His partner needed support. And Alex himself, he had somehow gotten lost among all those voices. He spoke constantly. He justified himself, explained himself, persuaded and comforted everyone around him, until he forgot the sound of his own voice. One evening, walking home, he noticed an old man in the park. The man sat on a bench, perfectly still, staring out at a small lake. Something about the stillness drew Alex in. He sat down beside him without saying a word. 10 minutes passed, then 20, then half an hour. Finally, the old man turned and smiled. "You've just learned the first lesson," he said. "What is it?" Alex asked. Silence. Most people cannot tolerate even 5 minutes without filling the air with words. They need to speak just to feel they exist. But real strength is in the ability to simply be, without explanation, without justification, without needing to prove anything to the world. Alex thought about how many times he had spoken simply because the silence felt unbearable. How much energy he had spent on words that no one actually needed. The old man gestured toward the water. See that lake? When no one disturbs it, it is calm and clear. You can see straight to the bottom. But throw in a stone, and the surface breaks. Ripples, turbulence, confusion appear. Your mind is exactly like this lake. Every unnecessary word, every reaction to someone else's opinion is a stone. Stop throwing stones, and you will finally see who you actually are. Alex walked home a different person. He had not changed his job. He had not moved to a new city. He had simply stopped explaining himself, stopped justifying his choices, learned to say no without lengthy apologies. And the most unexpected thing happened. People began to respect him more. Because the one who keeps their silence keeps their power. Now let's go deeper into the 10 Stoic lessons that will help you radically transform your life. Lesson 1. Your mind is your kingdom, and you are its only ruler. Tell me honestly, how many times today did you let someone else's words change your mood? Someone shared an opinion, and you spent an hour turning it over in your head. Someone posted a photo of their success, and you felt behind. Someone criticized you, and your whole day collapsed. Now pause and realize. None of those people were even thinking about what was happening inside you. They were simply living their lives, while you handed them authority over your peace. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not over external events. Realize this, and you will find your strength." Consider that. The man governing the most powerful empire on earth understood that genuine power is not over armies, it is over your own thoughts. When you focus on the external, on what others are doing, what they are thinking, how their lives appear, you hemorrhage energy. It is like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in it. No matter how much you pour in, it drains away. That energy is your attention, your time, your life force. Think of your mind as a garden. You can grow something beautiful there, or let weeds take over the space. Every thought is a seed. When you constantly feed on other people's noise, their standards, their drama, you invite weeds into your own inner space. The Stoic practice. Become deliberate about what you allow into your mind. Not every opinion deserves consideration. Not every criticism deserves a response. Decide which voices deserve your attention, and give nothing to the rest. Your mind is your kingdom. The moment you stop letting every passing voice have a vote in its governance, your peace becomes something you actually own. Lesson 2. Strategic silence. Instead of constant justification. How many times do you explain yourself when you have done nothing wrong? How many times do you justify a decision that was entirely yours to make? How often do you over-communicate your plans to people who have no stake in them? Here is what the Stoics understood. The moment you begin explaining yourself to everyone who questions you, you transfer your power to them. You invite their judgment into the center of your decision-making. And the more you explain, the more people probe, because explanations signal that approval is on offer. Marcus Aurelius practiced strategic silence as a form of discipline. Not the silence of someone who has nothing to say, the silence of someone who has no need to prove anything. When you hold your tongue and let your actions speak, you communicate something that no amount of words can convey. My life does not require a committee vote. There is also a practical dimension. When you announce your goals to everyone around you, psychology shows that the brain registers the social approval as partial achievement, and motivation drops. The energy that should be driving action leaks out through words. Speak less about what you intend. Do more. Let the result announce itself. In the conflict between someone who defends themselves loudly and someone who simply holds a calm, steady gaze, who appears stronger? Always the second. The one who reacts most visibly is often the one who has been most destabilized. Silence is not passivity. It is authority. Lesson 3. You are the ocean. Emotions are only waves. Emotions are not your identity. They are weather. They arise, they pass, they shift, and you remain. The Stoics did not teach the suppression of emotion. They taught something far more useful: the ability to observe your emotional state without being swept away by it. To feel what is present without identifying with it so completely that it governs every decision you make. Think of the ocean. Waves can be enormous. The surface can be chaotic and violent. But deep below, the ocean remains undisturbed. You are the ocean, not the surface. Your emotions are real, and they matter. But they are not the whole of who you are. When something provokes anger, sadness, fear, or frustration, the Stoic practice is not to fight it. It is to create a small distance. To notice, this is anger. I feel it. But I am the one observing it, and I choose what to do with it. That space between feeling and acting is where your actual freedom lives. Epictetus taught, "It is not what happens to you that determines your experience. It is your judgment of what happens." This is extraordinarily practical. You cannot always control what arises emotionally. But you can train yourself to respond from your values rather than from your reactions. The practice. The next time an emotion rises sharply, pause before acting. Breathe. Name what you feel without immediately feeding it. Then decide from a place of steadiness what response actually serves you. The more you do this, the less automatic your reactions become, and the more your life feels genuinely directed by you. Lesson 4. Discipline is the bridge between your dream and your reality. A dream without structure is a beautiful idea that changes nothing. Discipline is the architecture that turns vision into reality. Marcus Aurelius wrote not to waste time discussing what a good person looks like. Become one. The doing is everything. Faith without action is self-deception, and discipline is the daily act of choosing the harder, more meaningful path over the comfortable and convenient one. Most people have goals. Far fewer have disciplines. The difference is this: goals live in the mind. Disciplines live in the body, in your habits, your routines, your daily decisions. You do not achieve a meaningful life by wanting it intensely enough. You achieve it by building it one day at a time, even when motivation is absent, even when the result is not yet visible, even when no one is watching. Epictetus, who traveled the path from physical bondage to genuine freedom, said something precise. You have as much time as Michelangelo had. The question is not about time. It is about how you use it. What does your morning reveal about your discipline? What do your evenings confirm? The time you protect from distraction, the habits you refuse to compromise on, the commitments you honor when no one would know if you abandoned them. These are the real measure of where your life is heading. Discipline is not punishment. It is the deepest form of self-respect. It is the daily act of choosing the person you are becoming over the comfort of the person you currently are. Lesson 5. Solitude is your laboratory, not your prison. If right now you feel that there are very few people around you, that friendships have thinned, connections have grown quieter, and the phone barely rings, you may be experiencing something that looks like isolation, but is actually an invitation. An invitation to meet yourself, perhaps for the first time without the noise. Marcus Aurelius governed millions and waged his most important battles in complete solitude, alone with his own thoughts. He wrote, "A man can retreat into himself at any time. Nowhere does he find a quieter or more peaceful refuge than in his own soul." Consider that, an emperor surrounded by generals, advisors, and the constant pressure of power, who found genuine peace not in his palace, but inside himself. In the company of others, you are always playing some role: the dependable friend, the responsible professional, the supportive family member. All of these roles require energy. But who are you when no one is watching? When no role is required? That question frightens most people. And that fear is exactly why the question is worth sitting with. When you learn to be genuinely comfortable in your own company, something remarkable happens. You stop needing others to make you feel complete. Not because you become cold or withdrawn, but because you stop searching in others for what you can actually provide yourself. Peace, acceptance, genuine self-worth. Solitude is a forge. Metal does not become strong in comfort. It is heated, hammered, plunged into cold water. The process is difficult, but it produces something that can cut through any obstacle. Your character is forged in the moments you face alone, when there is no one to encourage you, when no one is applauding, when you do the right thing simply because you know it is right. Practical step. Every day, give yourself at least 15 minutes of genuine silence. No phone, no screen, no music. Just sit with your own thoughts. The first days will feel uncomfortable. Your mind will look for distractions. But if you stay with it, you will discover something that surprises you. You are a far more interesting and capable person than you realized. The answers you were searching for outside yourself were there all along. Lesson 6. Words are seeds. Plant them carefully. Have you noticed how easy it is to speak and how impossible it is to unsay something? A word spoken in anger can live in a relationship for years. A promise given carelessly becomes a burden. A secret shared with the wrong person becomes a weapon. The Stoics understood the power of language more deeply than most moderns do. They knew that every word shapes reality, not only external reality, but internal reality. When you complain constantly, you become a victim. When you justify yourself constantly, you weaken your own authority. When you boast constantly, you hollow yourself out. Seneca wrote, "Speak little on what is most necessary, or say nothing at all." This is not a call to become mute. It is an invitation to become intentional. Not every thought requires being spoken. Not every emotion needs to be expressed in words. Not every plan benefits from being announced to the world. Think about what happens when you tell people your goals before you have achieved them. You receive their approval. What a great idea! And your brain registers that approval as partial success. The motivation to actually do the work decreases. The energy that should drive action leaks out through premature words. Silence protects your intention. Let the result speak. In any conflict, the one who speaks least from emotion tends to hold the most power. The one who explains themselves loudest is often the one most rattled. Say less, mean more. When you speak, let it carry weight. And when silence is the wiser choice, choose it without apology. Lesson 7. Faith without action is self-deception. How many times have you said, "I believe things will work out," while changing nothing about what you were doing? Here is an uncomfortable truth that few people want to hear. Faith without movement is not faith. It is passive waiting dressed in the language of trust. And the two are not the same thing. The story of Noah is instructive. God warned of the flood, but he did not build the ark for Noah. Noah had to pick up the axe and work, while his neighbors laughed, while others dismissed him as foolish, while no rain cloud was yet visible on the horizon. He built not because he could already see the storm coming. He built because he believed and acted accordingly. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't waste time discussing what a good person should look like. Become one." Faith in your values, your purpose, your potential, all of that is genuinely meaningful. But if that faith does not translate into daily action, it is simply a beautiful excuse for standing still. Consider this honestly. How many people believe in the importance of health, but do not exercise? How many believe in the value of learning, but do not read? How many believe in their own talent, but do not work on it? That is not faith. That is self-soothing. Real faith always requires a step. Peter could not walk on water while still in the boat. David could not face Goliath from the safety of the camp. Faith is action taken in spite of fear, in spite of uncertainty, in spite of circumstances that argue against it. Epictetus, who traveled the road from slavery to freedom, put it plainly. You have the same hours as Michelangelo. The question is not about time, it is about how you use it. This year, find one goal you genuinely believe in. Now ask, what specific, concrete actions am I taking toward this every single day? If the answer is unclear or absent, the belief is still only a wish. Create a plan. Start small. Move consistently. And remember, faith opens the door, but you have to walk through it. Lesson 8. Every yes to someone else may be a no to yourself. When was the last time you said yes when everything inside you was saying no? You agreed to help when you were already running on empty. You showed up for someone else's emergency when you had your own unfinished work. You gave your time, your energy, your presence, and somewhere in the giving, you lost track of yourself. Here is what no one says plainly. Every time you say yes to someone else's request, you may be saying no to your own time, your energy, your priorities, your dreams. And that debt, not financial but existential, accumulates. The Stoics were masters of boundaries. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Learn to say no, without explaining, without apologizing, without justifying." This is not harshness, it is wisdom. Because if you do not protect your time, others will consume it. If you do not set boundaries, people will walk through them without even noticing. Think of your life as a garden. You have a finite amount of water. When you water other people's gardens, your own wilts. Over time, you look around and realize, Nothing in your own garden grew because you were too busy tending everyone else's. Why is it so hard to say no? Because we are afraid. Afraid of not being liked. Afraid of being called selfish. Afraid of losing connection. But here is the liberating truth. Anyone who becomes genuinely upset at your no was not valuing you. They were valuing your availability. That is not friendship. That is usage. There is also a less visible cost. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you lose a fraction of your own self-respect. Deep down, you know, I betrayed my own priorities for someone else's convenience. That awareness accumulates as resentment, not at them, but at yourself. Over time, that resentment becomes exhaustion, disengagement, a quiet sense that life is passing you by while you manage other people's needs. This year, make one decision. Your no is a complete sentence. It does not need a footnote. Your yes is a conscious choice, not an automatic response. Your time belongs to you, and you decide who receives it. Lesson 9. Pain is not a curse. It is a teacher. Tell me honestly, what is hurting right now? Maybe someone betrayed your trust. Maybe something you worked for did not come through. Maybe you lost someone important. Maybe you are simply tired of fighting. Pain is part of life. But here is the distinction between those who grow through it and those who are broken by it. The ones who grow use the pain. The ones who are broken allow the pain to use them. The Stoics did not fear suffering. They understood it. Pain is inevitable, but despair is a choice. Marcus Aurelius survived wars, plagues, betrayals, the deaths of children he loved. His life was not easy, but he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Read that slowly. What is stopping you may be the very thing that moves you forward, not despite the pain, but through it. Think of fire. Paper placed in fire is consumed. Metal placed in fire is purged. Pain is fire, and you decide whether to be paper or metal. Most people hide from pain. They numb it, distract from it, explain it away, ignore it until it becomes unbearable. But pain that is not processed does not disappear. It accumulates. It transforms into bitterness, cynicism, low-grade depression, a slow poison that seeps into everything from the inside. The Stoic approach is different. Look at the pain directly. Ask it, "Why are you here? What are you trying to show me?" Because pain always carries a message. Perhaps you trusted the wrong people. Perhaps you ignored your own limits. Perhaps you were living someone else's life. Pain is an alarm clock. It says, "Wake up. Something needs to change." Epictetus, who lost freedom and health, said, "Don't demand that events happen as you wish. Accept them as they are, and you will live in peace." This is not surrender. It is wisdom, because resistance only amplifies pain. Acceptance frees the energy needed for genuine transformation. When you feel pain, do not run from it. Sit with it. Breathe. Let yourself feel it fully. Where is it in your body? What does it feel like? When you approach pain as an explorer rather than a prisoner, it loses its power over you. You become the observer of your own experience, not the victim of it. Then ask, What is this trying to teach me? Perhaps that some people were never trustworthy. Perhaps that your expectations were built on something fragile. Perhaps that you are stronger than you ever believed. Pain destroys illusions, and without illusions you finally see clearly. That clarity, though it hurts at first, becomes the foundation of everything real in you. Lesson 10. Become unrecognizable and find your true self. If you have reached this point, something in you is ready to change. Not superficially, deeply. This final lesson is the most important, because everything before it has been leading here. Real transformation happens when you become unrecognizable to yourself. Not in a bad way. Not by losing your essence, but by finally uncovering it. By releasing everything that was never truly yours. The masks, the roles, the version of yourself you constructed to fit in, to be liked, to simply survive. Think of a tree in autumn. It sheds its leaves. It looks bare, empty, even dead. But it is not dying. It is preparing for spring, releasing the old to make space for the new. You are no less in need of that process. To become who you are meant to be, you must release who you have been pretending to be. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't waste time discussing what a good person looks like. Become one." Real change is not announced. It happens quietly, in daily choices, in moments when no one is watching. And one day people look at you and ask, "What happened? You seem different." And you smile, because you know you are not different. You have finally become yourself. What does becoming unrecognizable actually look like? It is when you stop reacting to provocations that used to pull you off balance. When you no longer justify yourself to people whose opinion you used to fear. When you stop seeking approval in places where you once went begging for it. When you walk your own path calmly and stop constantly looking over your shoulder at what others think. Epictetus, who traveled the road from slavery to philosophy, experienced this on a literal level. He did not change his body or his circumstances overnight, but he changed his mind. And that change made him free, even while the chains were still on his legs. The transformation is painful, because people who knew the old version of you do not always welcome the new one. They will say, "You've changed." And they will say it not as a compliment, but as an accusation, because your change reminds them of their own stagnation. Your calm highlights their chaos. Your clarity exposes their confusion. And here is where the hardest part comes. You must be willing to release some people. Not with cruelty, but with love for yourself. Because if you stay in the old circle, it will pull you back. If you keep explaining yourself to those who refuse to understand, you will exhaust yourself. Transformation requires space. And space sometimes means solitude. But this solitude is temporary. Because when you genuinely change, when you carry real frequency, you begin to attract different people. Those who value your peace rather than your availability. Those who respect your limits rather than exploit your openness. The practical signs of transformation. You stop checking your phone every 5 minutes. You stop comparing yourself to others. You no longer explain your decisions unprompted. You do not seek conflict, but you do not run from it out of fear either. You speak less, but with more weight. You listen more, and more selectively. You give generously, but protect your energy without apology. Seneca wrote, "The strong are not those who lift heavy weights, but those who rise after every fall." Transformation is not one dramatic event. It is hundreds of small daily choices. Rising early. Meditating when the mind resists. Saying no when it would have been easier to comply. Staying silent when you want to react. Continuing when you want to stop. And one day you look in the mirror and see a stranger. But it is a welcome unfamiliarity, because this person is calm, whole, knows what they want, is not afraid of being themselves, does not depend on external approval, and does not tremble before an uncertain future. This year, give yourself permission to become unrecognizable, not to others, but to the person you used to be. Let the version of you from a year ago not recognize you today, because that means you are growing, you are alive, you are not standing still while the world turns. We have walked a long path together, from the silence inside to the voice that now speaks more clearly, from the fear of being unseen to the courage of being fully yourself, from dependence on external validation to inner wholeness. These 10 lessons are not just ideas, they are a map, a roadmap toward a life that is genuinely yours, not performed for anyone else. Toward peace that does not break at every blow, toward a strength that does not need to announce itself. Remember the metaphor from the beginning. Your life is a ship. You now know who holds the helm. Not circumstances, not other people's expectations, not old fears. You. Only you. The Stoics understood 2,000 years ago what most people still resist. We cannot control the storm, but we control the sails. We do not choose every card in the game, but we choose how to play the hand we were dealt. This year can be transformational, not because the world will change for you, but because you will change your response to the world. And that change transforms everything. Focus on yourself, not from selfishness, but from responsibility. Because how can you give anything genuine to the world if you yourself are empty? Stay silent, not from pride, but from wisdom. Because not every battle needs words. Govern your emotions, not by suppressing them, but by using them as a compass that shows where your attention is needed. Be disciplined, not for external rewards, but for internal wholeness. Embrace solitude, not as punishment, but as a space for genuine growth. Choose your words carefully, because each one shapes your reality. Unite faith with action, because dreams without steps remain fantasies. Learn to say no, because every yes to someone else may be a no to yourself. Use pain as a teacher, not an excuse. And give yourself permission to become unrecognizable, because genuine transformation is not announced. It reveals itself. None of this is theory. It is a daily practice, sometimes difficult. But in that difficulty, what cannot be taken from you is being built. Inner freedom. Imagine yourself a year from now. You are sitting in the same place, but the world looks different. Not because it changed, but because your way of seeing it changed. The people who used to drain you no longer have access to your peace. The circumstances that used to frighten you now look like opportunities. The silence that used to feel threatening now feels like home. This is not a fantasy. This is the result of what you begin doing today. Not waiting for Monday, not waiting for a new year, not waiting for the perfect moment, because the perfect moment is always now. Marcus Aurelius ended his reflections knowing he had lived honestly. not perfectly, but with integrity, responsibility, and dignity. He left words that have lived 2,000 years, not because he was an emperor, but because he was a human being who sought the truth inside himself. You have that same opportunity. Not to rule an empire, but to rule yourself. Not to change the world, but to change your response to it. And in that change lives every freedom you have ever wanted. Remember, even in the middle of the storm, you can find the quiet harbor inside yourself. Because peace is not the absence of the storm. It is the presence of an unshakable stillness within. A lighthouse can stand under the force of waves, and its light does not go out. Be that lighthouse for yourself. Thank you for staying until the end. Your presence here is already a sign that you are ready. Now go, and remember, the deepest wisdom is not in what you have learned, but in what you choose to do next.